Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22. Instructions to Prithu Maharaj by the four Kumaras. Okay. Text 28, el verso 28. No, the encuentro, the meeting between Prithu Maharaj and the four Kumaras. Translation, purport, traducción, significado, por su divina gracia, hace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Atmanam indriyartam cha.
Atmanan indriyartam cha.
Parangyat ubayorapi.
Paranjat uvayorapi.
Satyashaya upadau vai.
Satyasaya upadovai.
Puman pashyati nan yada.
Pumam pasyati nan jada.
Atmanam.
Atmanam.
The soul, el alma.
El alma.
Indriya artam.
Indriyartan.
For sense gratification, para la complacencia de los sentidos.
Para la complacencia de los sentidos.
Cha.
Sat.
And y. Param.
Para.
Transcendental.
Trascendental.
Yat.
Yat.
That. Esa.
Esa.
Ubayo.
Uvayo.
Both. Ambos.
Ambos.
Api.
Api.
Certainly. Ciertamente.
Ciertamente.
Sati.
Sati.
Being situated. Estando situada.
Estando situada.
Ashaye.
Asaye.
Material desires. Deseos materiales.
Deseos materiales.
Upadhau.
Upado.
Designation. Identificación.
Identificación.
Vai.
Vai.
Certainly. Ciertamente.
Ciertamente.
Puman.
Puman.
The person. La persona.
La persona.
Pashyati.
Pasyati.
Sees. Ve.
Ve.
Na anyada.
Nanjada.
Not otherwise. De ninguna otra manera.
De ninguna otra manera.
Translation, traducción. When the soul exists for sense gratification, he creates different desires, and for that reason he becomes subjected to designations. El alma, mientras basa su existencia en la complacencia de los sentidos, crea multitud de deseos y debido a ello se ve atada a identificaciones falsas. But when one is in the transcendental position, he is no longer interested in anything except fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Pero cuando alcanza la posición trascendental, pierde el interés por todo lo que no sea la satisfacción de los deseos del Señor. Purport, significado. Being covered by material desires, a spirit soul is also considered to be covered by designations belonging to a particular type of body. Se considera que el alma espiritual cubierta por deseos materiales está también cubierta por las identificaciones características de un determinado tipo de cuerpo. Thus he considers himself an animal, man, demigod, bird, beast, etc. De modo que cree que es animal, hombre, semidios, ave, mamífero, etc. In so many ways, he is influenced by false identification caused by false egotism. And being covered by illusory material desires, he distinguishes between matter and spirit. Expuesta a la influencia de muchas identificaciones falsas causadas por el egoísmo falso y cubierta por deseos materiales ilusorios, hace distinciones entre la materia y el espíritu. When one is devoid of such distinctions, there is no longer a difference between matter and spirit. Cuando se ve libre de esas distinciones, la diferencia entre la materia y el espíritu deja de existir. At that time, the spirit is the only predominating factor. En ese momento, el único factor que predomina es el espíritu. As long as one is covered by material desires, he thinks himself the master or the enjoyer. Mientras estamos cubiertos por los deseos materiales, nos creemos los amos o disfrutadores. Thus he acts for sense gratification and becomes subjected to material pangs, happiness and distress. Entonces actuamos buscando complacer los sentidos y quedamos expuestos a los sufrimientos materiales, la felicidad y la aflicción. But when one is freed from such a concept of life, he is no longer subjected to designations and he envisions everything as spiritual in connection with the Supreme Lord. Sin embargo, cuando nos liberamos de ese concepto de la vida, dejamos de estar atados a las denominaciones falsas y podemos concebir que todo es espiritual y está relacionado con el Señor Supremo. This is explained by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti-yoga Sindhu 1.2.255. Esto lo explica Srila Rupa Goswami en su Bhakti-yoga Sindhu 1.2.255. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. The liberated person has no attachment for anything material or for sense gratification. He understands that everything is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. La persona liberada no siente apego por nada material, ni por la complacencia de los sentidos. Entiende que todo está relacionado con la Suprema Personalidad de Dios y que todo debe ocuparse en el servicio del Señor. Therefore, he does not give up anything. Por consiguiente, no abandona nada. There is no question of renouncing anything because the Paramahansa knows how to engage everything in the service of the Lord. Por consiguiente, el Paramahansa no tiene por qué renunciar a nada, pues sabe cómo ocuparlo todo en el servicio del Señor. Originally, everything is spiritual, nothing is material. En su origen, todo es espiritual, no hay nada material. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 274, also it is explained that a Mahabhagavata, a highly advanced devotee, has no material vision. En el Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 274, también se explica que la visión del Mahabhagavata, el devoto muy avanzado, nunca es material. Stavara jangama deke na deke taramurti sarvatra oi nija ishtadeva sfurti. Although he sees trees, mountains, and other living entities moving here and there, he sees all as the creation of the Supreme Lord, and with reference to the context, sees only the Creator and not the created. Aunque ve árboles, montañas y a otras entidades vivientes que se mueven de un lado por otro, todo lo ve como creación del Señor Supremo. Y en ese sentido ve solo al Creador y no lo creado. He sees Krishna in everything, and everything in Krishna. This is oneness. Solo ve a la Suprema Personalidad de Dios en todo. Ve a Krishna en todo y a todo en Krishna. Eso es unidad. Atmanam indriyartam cha parang yat ubayorapi satyashraya upadau vai puman pashyati nanyada. When the soul exists for sense gratification, he creates different desires. And for that reason, he becomes subjected to designations. El alma, mientras pasa su existencia en la complacencia de los sentidos, crea multitud de deseos y debido a ello se ve atada a identificaciones falsas. But when one is in the transcendental position, he is no longer interested in anything except fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Pero cuando alcanza la posición trascendental, pierde el interés por todo lo que no sea la satisfacción de los deseos del Señor. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharine Nirvishesha Shunyamari Prasthare Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So everything depends on our vision. Todo depende de nuestra visión. And our vision depends on our consciousness. Y nuestra visión depende de nuestra conciencia. Therefore, we are trying to develop Krishna consciousness. Por lo tanto, estamos intentando desarrollar la conciencia de Krishna, which then means our vision will change, lo cual significa que nuestra visión va a cambiar. Instead of seeing, well, that's the highest stage as it is explained here, instead of seeing matter, we will see spirit. Como aquí se explica en el nivel más elevado, ya no se va a ver nada de materia, sino todo espíritu. Which means, as Prabhupada says, at this time, the only predominating factor is spirit. Prabhupada explica aquí que en ese momento el único factor que predomina es el espíritu. And then the difference between matter and spirit disappears. Entonces, la diferencia entre la materia y el espíritu deja de existir. So why is that? As he explains, originally everything is spiritual. ¿No? ¿Y cómo se entiende eso? Pues originalmente todo es espíritu. Why something is called material? ¿Por qué llamamos a algo material? Prabhupada gives the example many times, microphone. Prabhupada da el ejemplo del micrófono. So the microphone is made from metal and plastic. Nowadays more plastic than metal. El micrófono está hecho de metal y plástico. Y hoy día los baratos, más plástico que metal. And on one hand, first of all, these are material elements. And Krishna says, they are my energy. En primer lugar, son elementos materiales. Y Krishna dice, son energía mía. Then the second consideration is, if the microphone is used to speak about Krishna, or to sing Krishna's glories, then it is spiritualized, ¿no? Y la otra consideración es cuando el micrófono se usa para hablar sobre Krishna o cantar sus glorias, el micrófono se espiritualiza. So then, if the microphone is sold to somebody else, ¿no? Vamos a vender el micrófono a otra persona, and he uses the microphone to speak about we don't want to mention. Y esa persona empieza a hablar sobre cosas que no queremos ni mencionar. So then and he sings mundane songs. He canta canciones mundanas. So then the microphone becomes completely material, ¿no? Entonces el micrófono se vuelve completamente material. So it depends how we use things, especially. Entonces depende sobre todo cómo se usan las cosas. Therefore also, Prabhupada said that many times, this is not Spain or a building near Brihuega. Eso no es España y un edificio cerca de Brihuega. This is Vaikuntha. Es Vaikuntha. How is that possible? No. Well, actually, the building before we came here was used for recreation in the summertime and go hunting with friends from a powerful person, ¿no? Antes que vinimos nosotros, el edificio se usó por una persona con poder y recursos para recrearse en el verano y ir a la caza. So it was really material, ¿no? Completamente material. And this was the main hall for enjoying with the friends and eating unmentionable food, ¿no? Y esa sala era la sala principal para reunirse con los amigos y comer cosas que tampoco queremos mencionar. I came here first in 81, I think, 2 years after it was purchased. Yo vine por primera vez aquí en el 81, 2 años después de comprarlo. And this hall was in the process of becoming a temple, ¿no? Y esa sala se estaba convirtiendo en un templo. But there was nothing like we have now, ¿no? Pero no había nada como esto. Not even the floor.
El Panchatattva.
Panchatattva was here, and of course the Vipra was here. So there was, I think, as far as I remember, because there was a chimney where now Radha Govinda Chandra and Gaurnitaya are, and then we had a small altar with Panchatattva and Guru Parampara, and that was it, ¿no? Y al principio era eso, había una chimenea donde están ahora las deidades, y ahí encima pues un Panchatattva con el Guru Parampara, y eso era todo. Then the devotees being here, they transformed everything into Vaikuntha, because everything was being used in the service of the Lord. Y los devotos estando ahí transformaron todo en Vaikuntha, usando todo en el servicio del Señor. Now, if for some reason this would go again in the hands of somebody who is not a devotee, si por alguna razón eso vuelve a las manos de una persona que no es devota, so then what will that person do? Well, first of all, the deities would go and everything would be transformed into a, let's say, hotel for material enjoyment, ¿no? Primero las deidades se van y todo se transformará, por ejemplo, en un hotel para el disfrute material. So Vaikuntha will disappear and the material world will be back into place, ¿no? Vaikuntha desaparecerá y volverá el mundo material. So everything is like that, and ourselves we are like this also, ¿no? Todo es así y nosotros también somos así. We are spirit souls. We are actually spiritual entities, persons, ¿no? Somos almas espirituales, somos entidades espirituales, personas espirituales. But when we forget, and we engage in activities that are completely centered in our own enjoyment, then we become materialized, you could say. We become contaminated. Pero cuando olvidamos eso y nos ocupamos en actividades completamente centradas en la propia complacencia de los sentidos, como aquí se dice egotism, entonces prácticamente nos contaminamos, nos volvemos como entidades materiales. And of course people think like that. Most people have no idea, they don't understand there is a spiritual dimension to life. Y así es por la mayoría de la gente. No entiende, no considera que hay una dimensión espiritual de la vida. This is called materialism. No? We speak about materialists. Eso se llama materialismo. Hablamos de los materialistas. What is a materialist? ¿Qué es un materialista? Pues, very simple. Everything is matter, and that is only that matters. In English we can make this play of words. ¿No? Eso es lo único que importa. Y solo hay materia. So that means, and that is explained in the purport, the result of such kind of consciousness is let's see where this is. So, as long as one is covered by material desires and material consciousness, he thinks himself the master and the enjoyer, and thus he acts for sense gratification. He becomes subjected to material pangs, happiness and distress. ¿No? Mientras estamos cubiertos por esos los deseos materiales y la conciencia materialista, nos creemos los amos y disfrutadores, actuamos buscando complacer los sentidos y quedamos expuestos a los sufrimientos materiales, la felicidad y la aflicción. So all this suffering, whatever, because we don't want it, but it's there, it's only due to identifying oneself with matter instead of spirit. ¿No? Todo el sufrimiento, lo que no queremos, solamente existe o ocurre porque nos identificamos con la materia en vez del espíritu. And consciousness is material consciousness instead of being Krishna consciousness. Y la conciencia es material en vez de ser conciencia de Krishna. So the whole process is how to spiritualize our existence. ¿No? Todo el proceso consiste en cómo espiritualizar nuestra existencia. And basically, spiritualizing the existence is equivalent to purifying the existence. ¿No? Y espiritualizar la existencia es equivalente a purificar la existencia. Because this whole problem of identifying with matter is due to contamination, ¿no? Porque todo el problema de identificarse con la materia es debido a la contaminación. Here we have this word upadao, upadis, the designations. Aquí tenemos esa palabra upadao, upadis, las designaciones, identificaciones falsas. This is only due because the consciousness is contaminated by the three modes of material nature, especially ignorance and passion, ¿no? Tamas y rajas. Y todo eso debe porque la conciencia está contaminada por las tres modalidades de la naturaleza material, las cualidades, especialmente ignorancia y pasión, tamas y rajas. So, the process of Krishna consciousness is to practically eliminate rajas y tamas and become situated in sattva and then Shuddha sattva. Todo el proceso de la conciencia de Krishna en realidad es eliminar prácticamente por completo rajas y tamas y situarse en sattva y luego Shuddha sattva. That's explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, very famous 5 verses. 1 to 16 to 21, En el Srimad Bhagavatam, esos versos, 5 versos son muy conocidos, explican ese proceso. Primer canto, capítulo 2, versos 16 a 21. It begins with Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. Todo empieza con Srinvatam Swakata Krishna, to hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna. Then Krishna in the heart, he will help that devotee, that person, to clean. Cuando hacemos eso, escuchar y cantar acerca de Krishna, Krishna en el corazón, ayuda al devoto limpiando el corazón. Then, what happens then? Nashta prayeshu avadreshu. Then all these rajas and tamas, inauspicious things, will be practically cleaned out to zero. There may be some little left over. Todo lo que es inauspicioso, esa contaminación, rajas y tamas, se va a eliminar prácticamente por completo. Prayeshu. Prayeshu means not 100%, maybe 90, hopefully 90, maybe even 80. Prabhupada said minimum 75. So el proceso es que uno va a limpiar eso y no 100%, it's not possible in the material world, 100% no es posible en el mundo material, pero ojalá 90% o un 80%, mínimo 75%, algo así. When that happens, nashta prayeshu, so let's say 75, beginning from 75%, then we will be fixed in devotional service, nishta. Entonces uno se vuelve fijo en el servicio devocional, nishta. And then tara rajas tamo bhava kama lobha yashchaye. Then tamas and rajas practically are finished, and there may be some little left over. They're not powerful enough to really influence the devotee. ¿No? Cuando se eliminan prácticamente por completo, ya no tienen el poder de influenciar al devoto. That's the idea. And then sattvam, stita sattvam prasidati. One becomes fixed in sattva guna and becomes joyful. That's the result. Uno se fija, o sea, está fijo en sattva guna y se vuelve alegre, dichoso. Therefore, a depressed devotee doesn't exist. Por lo tanto, un devoto depresivo no existe. If he's depressed, he's not a devotee. Si está deprimido, no es un devoto. Prabhupada said like that. Because it's inevitably the result. If one is in Krishna consciousness, you have to be happy. You cannot be depressed. It's not possible. Eso es el resultado, si lo Prabhupada lo explica así. Cuando uno llega a ese estado, se vuelve feliz y no puede ser deprimido. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. That's Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, so it's definitely true. Krishna lo dice en Bhagavad Gita, definitivamente es cierto. Cuando llegamos al nivel de Brahman, que es see everything as spirit, if we come to that level, seeing everything spiritual, then one becomes happy. Uno se vuelve feliz cuando ve todo como espíritu. Na shochati na kangshati, then all these desires and hankerings, they will disappear. Todos esos anhelos, esos deseos materiales van a desaparecer. And you will not lament even if something is lost. Incluso uno no se va a lamentar cuando algo se pierde. One sees Krishna in everything, even in some loss. Uno puede ver a Krishna en todo, incluso en alguna pérdida. And sometimes Krishna uses this kind of loss to make us more Krishna conscious. ¿No? Y a veces Krishna usa ese tipo de pérdida para hacernos más conscientes de Krishna. That he says to Maharaj Yudhishthira, that if I favor somebody, then I may take away everything. Hari. Hari means somebody who takes away. ¿No? Si yo favorezco a alguien, quizás le quito todo. Hari significa alguien que quita. And first of all, he takes away his misery. ¿No? En primer lugar, quita la miseria. So, We have 10 minutes. Any questions or comments on this? It's a very simple philosophy. If you read this purport, everything is there to become Krishna conscious. Una filosofía muy simple. Uno lee ese significado, todo está ahí para volverse consciente de Krishna.
Se dice en el Srimad Bhagavatam que Sukadeva Goswami, cuando huyó de su casa y vio a las doncellas, vio el espíritu. Pero Vyasa no vio el espíritu. ¿Por qué no vio el espíritu Vyasa si es una encarnación de Krishna?
Bueno. So in Srimad Bhagavatam we have this story that Shukadeva Goswami, when he leaves home and he goes and he passes by some girls, he didn't see them really as women, so they didn't cover themselves. But when Vyasadeva passed by, then because it was said his vision was material, therefore they did cover. And the question is, how is it that Vyasadeva, if he's an incarnation of Krishna, he has this kind of, you could say, vision, which is not perfect. No, porque tiene una visión no perfecta. Well, in Srimad Bhagavatam we have this whole conversation between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. In Srimad Bhagavatam tenemos la conversación entre Vyasadeva y Narada Muni. And actually Vyasadeva was depressed. No, en realidad Vyasadeva estaba depresivo. and he was wondering why, no? Y estaba preguntando por qué. And then Narada Muni, his spiritual master, came and he explained to him why. No? Vino Narada Muni, su maestro espiritual, y se le explicó por qué. So he told him that, okay, you have compiled so many Vedic literatures. Has compilado tanta escritura védica. Los Vedas, los Puranas, Upanishads, Mahabharata, etc., etc. But actually there's a lot of material things in there. ¿No? Pero en esas literaturas hay muchas cosas materiales. So you have to write something which is exclusively dealing with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tienes que escribir algo que se dedica exclusivamente a Krishna, la Suprema Personalidad de Dios. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Amala Purana. It's a spotless Purana. No? Srimad Bhagavatam se considera Amala Purana un Purana sin manchas. There are other Puranas. There's altogether 18 Puranas, and they're divided in 3 categories of 6 each. ¿No? Hay 18 Puranas y tienen 3 categorías con 6 Puranas en cada categoría. So there's Sattvic Puranas like Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, Padma Purana. Esos Puranos son sattvicos. And then there are Rajasic and Tamasic Puranas also. Y hay Puranas que son con Rajaguna y Tamaguna. They are meant for people who are in those material modes, and then they may become elevated little by little. ¿No? Y la gente que está en esas modalidades se puede elevar poco a poco. But there's a lot of things in there that are not purely spiritual, pero hay muchas cosas ahí que no son puramente espirituales. Like Mahabharata, it's history, and there's a lot of intrigues and all kinds of, nowadays, the television series, they're practically based on Mahabharata. ¿No? Los culebrones en la televisión están como basados en el Mahabharata, en una manera u otra. So, what is the only real value in Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita, which is in there. You know, Krishna speaks for half an hour about it. Anyway, so lo único realmente espiritual en el Mahabharata es Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, so Vyasadeva, that was his position. Although he is an incarnation of the Lord, a literary incarnation, still he also has dealt in the scriptures with things that are not purely spiritual. aunque es una encarnación de Krishna, Vyasadeva, en esas escrituras ha tratado temas que no son puramente espirituales. And Prabhupada explains actually in that, as far as I remember, in those purports, that Vyasadeva was a grihasta. So therefore his vision was he had to distinguish between men and women, otherwise you cannot be a grihasta. Very simple logic. Lo que recuerdo, Prabhupada en esos significados explica que Vyasadeva, como era grihasta, tenía la visión distinguir entre hombre y mujer. Si uno no distingue, no puede ser grihasta, muy difícil. Shukadeva Goswami, he had an equal vision. He was he's going to be he never will marry, so he's a Naishtika Brahmachari. And his vision is different. La visión de Shukadeva Goswami is diferente. So that the ladies, they knew this, so therefore they reacted to one person in one way and to the other person in a different way. ¿No? Y las doncellas lo sabían, y por lo tanto actuaron con una persona de una manera y con el otro de otra manera. So yes, it depends on the vision. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, Krishna has equal vision, and Pandita Samadarshina, the person who's real learned, also has that equal vision. ¿No? Todo depende de la visión, y como Krishna tiene una visión, Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, él ve a todas las entidades vivientes iguales. La persona realmente con conocimiento, Pandita, también tiene esa visión y no hace esa diferencia. Or simultaneously, of course, one and different. It's not that because you apply the absolute vision to a material circumstance, then that's a mistake. ¿No? Eso no significa que uno aplica la visión de igualdad o espiritual a una circunstancia material. Therefore, Krishna divided society in 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. It's not all equal. It's not one, in communism they tried to have only one kind of people. ¿No? Krishna dividió las cosas en 4 varnas y 4 ashramas. No es una sociedad con una sola clase, hay 4 clases. The society not has just one class, there's 4 classes. So classless society, and those who come from Russia, they know from their history, this was an attempt, and it's still attempted in some places like maybe, I don't know, even as North Korea for sure, and China more or less, but less than more. They still try to do that. ¿No? Y algunos países, en Rusia tienen esa experiencia del pasado. En algunos países como Corea del Norte y de alguna manera China, de alguna manera, pero ya no tanto, intentan tener una sociedad de una sola clase. But actually this has never existed, and you know this from history. Even in the Soviet Union, there were at least 2 classes. The working class and the administrative class. The politicians, I mean, they were not on the field and in the factory. They were administrating, so at least you have 2, for sure. ¿No? O sea, incluso en la Unión Soviética no había una sola clase, mínimo 2. ¿No? Los que trabajan, los trabajadores, y los administradores, los políticos. La nomenclatura. They were called. And they had their privileges, of course. It's just natural. It's an artificial attempt. Y ellos tenían sus privilegios. Es un intento artificial. They had their special stores. They could go to buy things coming from the West. Normal people couldn't. ¿No? Ellos tenían sus tiendas o almacenes, grandes almacenes especiales donde podían ir y comprar cosas del occidente. La gente normal no podía. Anyway, so this equal vision, yes, is there, as here it mentions Chaitanya Charitamrita. A very advanced devotee doesn't even see mountains and trees and all this and that. He sees everything as the creation of the Lord. No, aquí se menciona ese verso de Chaitanya Charitamrita como el devoto muy avanzado, aunque ve árboles, montañas y otras entidades, no los ve exactamente como diferentes, sino como la creación del Señor. In other words, what's the difference? That's what Krishna consciousness is. You see everything in connection with the Lord. You don't make everything one as one homogeneous mass, ¿no? Esa visión de la conciencia de Krishna. Sí, ve igualdad, todo como uno en un sentido, pero no como una masa homogénea. That's Mayavadi, Salva Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman, and it's just one something, whatever it may be. No solamente una sustancia y nada más, no. There's variety in this unity, ¿no? Existe la variedad dentro de la unidad. So that's perfect philosophy. Achintya, Veda, Aveda, Tattva. Esa es la filosofía perfecta. Simultaneously, and inconceivable, Achintya, how can we understand? Simultaneously, one, it's different and it's one. ¿No? ¿Cómo se puede entender que algo simultáneamente es uno y es diferente? Doesn't make sense to the normal brain, ¿no? Para el cerebro normal no tiene sentido. Si es uno, no es diferente. Y si es diferente, no es uno. If it's one, it can't be different. And if it's different, it cannot be one. Very simple logic. So, yes, but in the transcendence, this logic doesn't apply. Pero en la trascendencia, esa lógica no es aplicable. It's simultaneously one and different. No, how can it be? ¿Cómo puede ser que simultáneamente uno diferente? Yes, like Krishna. Puranam Navayovanam Shchara. He's the oldest, and he's always fresh like a boy of 16 years. ¿No? Es el más antiguo y simultáneamente un joven de 16 años siempre fresco. How can that be? Because people can't understand. For them, God, because he's the oldest, that's true. He must have a beard. It must be a very old man sitting on that throne with his beard. And what does he do all day? Nothing. Not as far as we know. ¿No? ¿Y qué hace todo el día? Está ahí sentado en el trono con la barba larga y no hace nada prácticamente. Porque por lo menos no se explica, no hay información. So, yes, Krishna is the oldest, but at the same time he's playing, even as a child if he wants to. Why not? Explain that to somebody, that God is a child. My God, no. He has long beard. Uno explica eso a alguien que Dios es un niño que juega por ahí, no solamente un viejo sentado en un trono. So anyway, so Vyasadeva, yes, he had this vision, and Shukadeva Goswami had a different vision. So we have to come to the vision of Shukadeva Goswami, even though we may have a circumstance in like Vyasadeva's. That is possible. Debemos llegar a eso, de tener una visión como Shukadeva Goswami, a pesar de quizás todavía la situación que tenemos es como la de Vyasadeva. So, you may have family, you may have some work, you may have so many things, but at the same time one can be Krishna conscious. ¿No? Uno puede tener una familia, un trabajo y tantas cosas, pero simultáneamente puede ser consciente de Krishna. So that's the real art of living. ¿No? Eso es el verdadero arte de vivir.
Существует ли состояние внешне похожее на депрессию, но это духовное состояние?
Is it possible that there are some circumstances that externally looks like lamentation or depression, but this is spiritual something? Is it possible?
Yes, very nice
Если
question.
да, то как различать? Можно различить, по каким признакам можно различить?
If the answer is yes, how do we differentiate between these two?
So, la pregunta es si existe una circunstancia donde la aparentemente depresión o lamentación es en realidad espiritual, y si existe eso, ¿cómo se diferencia? For that you have to have a spiritual vision. Otherwise you will misunderstand. And the best example is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have, in the especially Antya Lila, description of his different ecstasies. And there's a lot of description of what may appear as lamentation and suffering.
описание есть того, что мы можем принять за страдание или за скорбь.
So those who don't understand and who don't have the right vision, they conclude, and that's what people think, because for scholars, he's a historic personality.
И вот если у человека нет этого видения, то люди, они могут именно принять это за скорбь.
So, of course, they don't accept him as a supreme lord coming as a devotee. They describe him as a madman.
Они описывают его как просто сумасшедшую.
So, it looks like he's mad.
Выглядит, как будто он сумасшедший.
But actually it was his supreme level of ecstasy, Mahabhava. So this kind of ecstasy he didn't show to the people in general during the day. There were only very few, 3 confidential devotees who were with him at those times. Actually, 3.5. Ramananda Roy, Swarup Shiki Mahiti, and his sister. So others, therefore also we know, and Prabhupada speaks about this, devotees don't show if there are ecstatic symptoms or they feel ecstatic symptoms, they try to suppress them, they don't show them in public. Because part of those ecstasies may be what appears to be like lamentation. That, well, anyway, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll understand. The devotee thinks that I have no love for Krishna, and where is Krishna? I don't see Krishna anywhere. Like the 6 Goswamis, the last verse explains that. He Radhe Vrajadevike, Hinanda Suna Kuta, where are you? And they were Vivalao, that they were, going mad, looking for Krishna. And Prabhupada says that they never said, oh, last night Krishna came and he snatched my cloth and he wanted to dance with me. They never say like that. Yeah, if somebody speaks like that, we know it's false. Sahajiya. Imagining something spiritual which is actually material. So, this separation, feeling of separation, leads to what you may consider depression or lamentation. But it's not what it appears to be. And only those who have a spiritual vision can understand that and see that. So generally, therefore, it's kept confidential. Okay. Thank you. I think it's time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sisi Gaunitaya Radha Govinda Chandra Gauravani ki jai, Hare Krishna.